to another edition of the College Gridiron Showcase Watch List Show, tracking the top NFL draft prospects on the planet each and every week, brought to you by the NFL Draft Bible, broadcasting around the globe with your hosts, Joe Everett, Justen Gammel, and me, the RIC, Ric Serritella. We are on air.
Oh, baby, can't stop, won't stop. You heard the man, RIC in the place to be, Ric Serritella here, back at it again for the first show of the 2018 College Gridiron Showcase Watch List Show. If you're new to the show, welcome, everybody. We do this each and every week. We'll be counting you down to the fourth annual College Gridiron Showcase and Symposium in Addison, Texas. Yes, we have a new home, same state, new location, bigger and better, and we'll get to that in just a second. But if you're new to the show, let me just tell you we got some changes here this year we're going to make. We're going to be trying to get this show out more to the masses. We had a lot of great feedback and response and people wanting to know, when we're going to be starting back up. Well, we'll be back at it each and every week here on the Blog Talk Radio at NFL Draft Bible channel. We'll also get this out on our YouTube channel over on the All Access Football page there. Of course, you can find us on NFLDraftBible.com. We're now on iTunes. Okay, and we'll be uploading this to SoundCloud as well. So if you're a podcast fan, and we'll, hey, it's our first day back. We'll get the Facebook Live and the Periscope and Twitter streaming too. So bear with us. But we're really excited because we have the usual suspects, Director of College Football, Joe Everett, Associate Director, Justen Gammel, of course, Ric Serritella here. And, we're going to take a look ahead at what's in store for the fourth annual College Gridiron Showcase and Symposium, but we can't do that until we recap this past year's showcase where we had 111 NFL scouts, over 100 guys in rookie camps trying to make an NFL roster. And quite honestly, folks, we only had 3 players drafted, yet we had over 100 players in NFL camps, which tells me we've really done a great job cornering the market and finding and identifying the undrafted free agent market. And that's really what the College Gridiron Showcase is all about, because you know what? I tell these players, you're here for a reason. Nobody else wanted you. But now it's time for them to prove us right because we saw something in them, and that's really what we're trying to do. And it's not where you play, it's how you play, and who better to talk about it than one of our co-founders of the College Gridiron Showcase. He is Craig Red. He joins us right now on the Defiance Fuel Order Hotline. Welcome to the show, Craig. A lot of exciting news to get to. It's been an exciting time just watching these guys where they land, but say hello to the people out there.
Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to be back.
We're glad to have you, Craig. And, I wanted to talk to you about some of the changes for the 2018 College Gridiron Showcase. But since it's our first show, we have some new listeners. People are tuning in maybe for the first time. They want to know more about the game. But more specifically, tell them about your role and what you do in a short version, if you can, my friend.
Of course. I'm the co-founder and director of operations of the College Gridiron Showcase. My job is to kind of corral everyone, make sure we are a fine-tuned machine, make sure everything is in order so our executive director, Jose Jefferson, can just make sure the ship runs right, make sure we're doing everything we need to do for our athletes, our scouts, and the agents who come to our event.
And, we mentioned over 100 players in rookie camps, these past OTA sessions, Craig. That's just from this past year's event. Of course, we have more alumni from previous years, and this will be the 4th year now down in Texas. And there's a new home for the College Gridiron Showcase. Let's talk about that first.
There is. And before I even go to that, I want to applaud you, Joe, Justen, Christian, for you guys doing such a great job and assembling such a great roster for us this past year to allow these 100-plus players getting into NFL camp. So first, I want to thank you guys and thank you for all the listeners. But yes, we have moved from Bedford, Texas. We're moving to Addison, Texas, which is maybe about 25 minutes up the road. the reason for the move is good things. I mean, as much as we hated to leave Bedford because they were such a great host city for us, we just outgrew the place that we were at. And that's a great thing for our event. That's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to grow every year. So Addison, Texas really is going to allow us to spread our wings a little bit more, so when our guests come, we have plenty of places for them to go, and just put us in a place where hopefully we found a home for a long time, and just allow CGS to really grow. We've also partnered up with the Crown Plaza there in Addison, Texas. It's the Crown Plaza near Galleria Mall. That hotel, we're not outgrowing that anytime soon. The hotel just offers us so much more space, so much more meeting space, so it's going to allow us to have some more great seminars for our athletes, for our parents, more room for the scouts, for the agents. And as we get into this a little bit more, we'll talk about some more surprises that we have coming down the pike. Just for the football fan, for the fan who wants to know more, learn more, we have some more exciting things for them. And then we found a new home for the football part of it, which is going to be at Green Hill School, which is a private school there in Addison, Texas, and we're excited about partnering up with them and them allowing us to bring our event and our football players to their school and their venue.
Yeah, it was really quite the sight to see because, as you said, we outgrew the hotel last year. And for those of you in the industry who did attend, the symposium is a big part, and especially that first day there where there's no practices involved at all. The first day is really just 8 hours of intense NFL interview. Teams just interview players. Some players might get called into 20, 30 interviews in a day. And, you have a congregation of NFL scouts, and there's agents, and there's media, and there's trainers, and there's sponsors, and there's just it's really come a long way. And as you mentioned, now with the new Crown Plaza partnership there, Craig, we'll have the ability to allow this event to grow like it should be. And the symposium classes, the way we educate these players, one of the biggest things that I'm going to talk about with Joe and Justin is the one thing I realize that these players need guidance, but boy, they need more guidance than I ever even possibly imagined. And that's the good thing about the College Gridiron Showcase. No, really, I go on location across the nation, as many of you know. I talk to a lot of these players, whether it's at an event, a camp, a game, a function. It's usually for a day. It's usually for a short interaction. It's usually for 15 minutes or less, whether it's a media day, a game interview, and you talk to the player and you move on. Where the College Gridiron Showcase, you really establish relationships, the camaraderie. You get to know these players and who's a prankster and who's about their business, and the more I talk to these players, man, it's just really we're really serving them. And when you get to the College Gridiron Showcase, my first year working with you guys, Craig, you realize no matter what you're there for, it's the event is bigger than you, and it's all about the players, and it truly is. Everybody involved with the event and all the people behind the scenes and the coaches from top to bottom, they just are all in on making it about the players. And Craig, we got to let you run here shortly, but I wanted to tell you thank you for the way Craig and yourself and Jose have allowed us to run this operation. And yeah, it is a team effort. The guys at the Draft Bible, Justin, Joe, Chris, I mean, they did an outstanding job, but we couldn't have done it without the input and help from you guys. And I know we'll be looking forward to a lot more 6 a.m. Conference calls, text messaging, and all kinds of debates as we get ready. Last one, I mean, are we allowed to talk about when the watch list will be unveiled, Craig?
I don't think we have the exact date, but yeah, I think within the next week and a half, I think everyone can expect it to be unveiled. I'm going through it now. I know you guys have really been working hard on it. I know Jose's going through it right now, and we're just trying to make sure that it's it's right. So when we unveil it, it's going to be mind-blowing. Again, we're already assembling a great watch list of some players, and I know you've already built your schedule. I'm working on building my schedule here for this upcoming season, and it's really going to be exciting. I can't wait. I'm glad it's back. I'm glad we're able to talk about it because we've been working behind the scenes for about 4 or 5 months already on this.
Yeah, crazy.
And we're really excited. We have some things in place. We'll have some great new announcements with some new sponsors and again some new things that we're adding to the event this year. So I'm really excited that this is kicked off today.
No, it's exciting times, and, the stuff that we're not allowed to talk about yet is even more exciting. We'll unveil more news as the season progresses. There is no off season. In fact, the NFL draft season begins in Addison, Texas, January 6th through the 10th. That is the co-founder, Craig Red, of the College Gridiron Showcase. We always appreciate your time, Craigie.
Thank you. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, there you have it, the co-founder, Craig Red, and man, that watch list is going to be outstanding. He talked about excitement. Where I'm at 5 games. That first week of the college football season, I'm hitting 5 games right off the gate, and I'll be at 24 college football games over the course of this upcoming college football season. Big school, small school, don't matter. Everything in between, D1, D2, D3. You see the Packers, they got 3 players from our College Gridiron Showcase from the D2 ranks right now trying to make a 53-man roster, and that's what we're all about here at the NFL Draft Bible and the College Gridiron Showcase, January 6th through the 10th, Addison, Texas. Book it. It's where you want to be. And these guys that I'm about to welcome into the show know all about that. We're going to bring in our Director of College Football Scouting, Joe Everett, our Associate Director, Justen Gammel. And, let's start off with Joe, this College Gridiron Showcase watch list that we just mentioned and we're about to unveil here. It's quite remarkable because not only does the draft season kick off in January with the College Gridiron Showcase, it's a must pit stop now, 30 of the 32 NFL teams, but really the watch list sets off the draft season because what we do here is better than any other all-star event, I believe. We narrow down, again, big school, small school. Our watch list, we basically help all the other all-star events out there and do all the scouting for them because our watch list pretty much dictates the Senior Bowl watch list, the NFLPA, Collegiate Bowl, the East-West Shrine Game. Once we unveil our list, then the others will follow suit. But, Joe, just putting this beast together, give us a little taste of what the fans can expect to see.
Well, I mean, this is basically the laying the groundwork, putting the pipe down, and as you mentioned, I think a lot of other establishments may be peeping our watch list just because, we're one of the first out there, but it's all well worth it, and I think the listeners already know we've got so many projects in the off season that such a term doesn't exist. We're really going at it, and we had half the senior class already. May as well just put the watch list out, and yeah, it looks great, Rick. I can't wait to put it out there.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, when you see this list of players, if you're a draftnik, you're just going to really be excited. And Justin, the good thing about the watch list, unlike the NFL Draft Bible prospectus that we just released on NFLDraftBible.com, you can get it right now. It would be the best $10 you invest if you want to get the top 100 NFL draft scouting reports and some of the other things that we'll talk about later in the show. But, it's interesting, Justin, because when we put together the top 100 for the prospectus, only 23 of the top 100 were actual seniors. So the big board exercise and then the College Gridiron Showcase watch list exercise, it's really good to see because now, like the Blesto and the National, just like these NFL teams, now we're looking at just the draft eligible senior class, and it's gonna. I'm gonna leave it for a surprise when we unveil it, just how many players there are. But Justin, I know you've got a chance to get a sneak peek on it. But welcome to the show. And by the way, man, I mean, do we got to get you like a baseball bat or something, man? You're just beating people down on Twitter all the time, people coming at you at all angles. But I definitely appreciate the perspective you're giving out there. And at Gam Scout, you want a good Twitter. Follow Joe's at Joe W. Everett. You can follow the College Gridiron Showcase at CGS All-Star, of course, at NFL Draft Bible. But Justin's been breaking down not only the college scouting, but if you want NFL scouting, we just did our 2020 vision, the top players at each position in the year 2020 for the NFL. That's also part of our 2018 prospectus. But Justin, man, you've been breaking it down, NFL, college scouting, and just people coming at you, all kinds of crazy crookedness.
Yeah, man, Twitter is an angry site. I mean, I knew it was ruthless out there, but I mean, you start breaking down NFL players, and that's when the real fans come out, and I mean, it is just brutal out there. I'm just trying to do my work, but yeah, I'm having a blast. I mean, in the off season, it's so important, I feel like, to me to start looking into the NFL. Or, you know, I mean, we scout college guys, so it's very important for me to start looking into the NFL stuff because, I mean, that's where they're going. We have to know what we're scouting for. So, been doing that. Been doing a lot of quarterback work, especially with our 2020 series that we just finished up. So I've been trying to get a lot of NFL stuff done. Trying to break down all the quarterbacks and break down just as much stuff as I can, man. There's not enough hours in the day, but I do what I can, so.
No doubt. And, you know, Justin, you know, you've been with us for a couple years now. I'm actually going to be, it's hard to imagine saying this, I'm going to be entering my 17th NFL draft cycle. And every year I know I learn so much about the process and, you know, getting to be at the College Gridiron Showcase, getting to assemble the rosters, and then getting to interact with the scouts on hand. I mean, you could just learn so much, also being around our coaching staff. But, Justin, we'll start off with you. We're going to talk about next year, and we're going to talk about some of the players that got drafted and some of the undrafted guys and some names you need to know. But just overall in general about the College Gridiron Showcase, I mean, thoughts and impressions, maybe some scouting lessons you learned our first year working with the College Gridiron Showcase.
Yeah, I mean, when we the first thing that kind of just stood out to me watching, you know, different all-star game circuits and all that other stuff, and it was just how smoothly the CGS ran. I mean, it was my first year, so I kind of got there and didn't know what to expect and didn't know what kind of things we were going to be getting ourselves into. But, I mean, to walk in my first year and not have a clue what to do, but have everything kind of laid out for you, have a good itinerary, and have it kind of stick. It kind of stayed true to itself. It was just, I think, the staff, the people who run it, everything that went into it. It was just, it ran so smoothly. The people cared about Craig and Sherry and everyone who's there. It was interesting to me to see how much they genuinely cared about these players and how much they cared about the well-being of everybody there. How easy they tried to make it on the NFL scouts, trying to get interviews. And it was, just as the way that they put it together, how well it was ran, how well organized, that was something that stood out to me, having it be my first year for sure.
And anything on the scouting side before I toss it over to Joe? I know, you know, the one thing I learned on the scouting side, and I already knew this, but just the depths of levels of, you know, not necessarily cheating, but just trying to, get an edge. And it even extends down to the undrafted free agent guys. I mean, just to see it, you know, one team just tell a player, you know, listen, we have an interview with you in 3 hours. I want you to go up in your room and just lock yourself and don't go meet with any teams. And, you know, the player did it. And it's just like, dude, you know, you're missing out on other NFL team opportunities. And if I told you what team it was, you probably wouldn't be surprised. But it's so true that if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, and it even applies to scouting.
No, yeah, I mean, definitely it was interesting to watch the players off the field and on the field. You could tell the guys that wanted to be there, that lived for it. I remember watching the drills, the DB drills, and Ryan Reed, the cornerback from Baylor. I mean, he jumped in front. Every single drill, he was the first guy in line. He was ready to demonstrate or just be the guinea pig and be like, all right, well, I'll try this. But he was one of those guys that played the game with his hair on fire, man. And, in the hotels, he was down there ready for interviews, ready to do whatever anyone needed him to do. And I remember playing, sports my entire life. It's funny to watch those guys who are always ready to jump up in line and ready to get going. Those are the guys that are passionate about the game. Those are the guys that it translates on the field. I mean, they're ready to go. They're ready to be there. And when you watched him in line for the drills and you watched him in the hotel and then when you watched him in the real game play, that dude was ready to go. So it was one of those guys. It was kind of just something, again, I knew too, but it was watching the guys that wanted to be there. And it was just kind of a good time to realize, hey, you can observe these guys 24/7 and get a lot of scouting, get some interesting tidbits about their life and who they are and what they want to do and how passionate they are about the game. So that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, you make a good point, Justin, because you can never measure a player's heart, but then when you go and see stuff like that, it makes you feel just a little bit better about investing in a player. And, Joe, I'm going to go over to you now. I mean, I talked to Craig a little bit just about the thoughts and impressions of me speaking to these players, building the relationships, and realizing that, these guys, they get to the College Gridiron Showcase. Some of them have yet to sign with an agent. Some of them have yet to decide where they're going to be training in preparation for the Combine or the Pro Day. And just many of them, and their parents included, unless you had a parent that played in the NFL, they're just very clueless about the NFL draft process. And I think, that's really where I feel like I want to help out a little bit more, just guiding players and helping them make the right decisions because, there are a lot of people at not only the College Gridiron Showcase, but throughout the draft process, you're going to encounter a lot of people and not necessarily with bad intentions, but, with their intentions at the forefront and not with the players' best intentions at the forefront. And players need to be able to decipher that, and they need a lot of help in that area. So, Joe, just curious to you before we get into the players, what were your thoughts and impressions and, maybe a scouting lesson that you were able to pick up and learn from the College Gridiron Showcase working with those guys?
Just kind of pick up that chord that you and Justin were touching on. You could tell some of the guys that wanted to be there, some of the guys that wanted to ball. One of the things that stuck out was that last day. Some of the guys, not interested, some people leaving early. I'll tell you right now, Casey Sales and Shakir Soto didn't want to leave. They just wanted to keep on playing. And, boy, that speaks volumes to me. And I think if any of the other evaluators still there, it should, be a little asterisk by their name that, and these two kids just want to ball. And I think, like you mentioned, too, though, it's just like a responsibility I started feeling. And one of the lessons learned, it's like, man, these kids, this is their chance. And this is our opportunity to give them a platform as such. So, but yeah, just general thoughts and impression. I love Texas. I'm tasting the Defiance fuel and some Whataburger right now. So, ready to get down south. And I think one thing, if I could speak on our All-Star event compared to others, it's just the format, I think, is so much more beneficial to these players with the practices, and then you give them the live scrimmage. You just show scouts scenarios that they want to see, and with the separate rosters, I think it's a great opportunity for just multiple players to have good footage out there, past their college team, film. So yeah, that's one thing I think we're definitely unique, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, there's no wasted time. It's more of an OTA style format. We incorporate feedback from the NFL scouts if they want to see a player return kicks, if they want to see a player at a different position. Tyrone Swoops is a perfect case study because he chose to come to the College Gridiron Showcase over some of the other All-Star game invites because it was more conducive to what he was trying to do. Rather than go out and play in a meaningless game in an empty stadium where the NFL scouts already went home, he had the opportunity to make that transition to tight end and not necessarily be thrown into the fire right away, but actually be in a practice element where the scouts can see him making that transition, going one-on-one, and taking a peek at what they got to work with. And, the way it's structured, it's really great because I know from an evaluation standpoint, I love the one-on-ones. I think that's where you begin to see the separation of player X to player Y to player Z. And then we incorporate the scrimmage so you get to see what they look like in an 11 versus 11 atmosphere. But, no other event is doing that. And, it's definitely a very, as you guys mentioned, organized, structured. I felt like, there was great communication between the personnel departments and our side of things, and that'll just continue to improve and get better with the injury updates, the background information, players, getting injured, new players arriving. It's just so many moving parts. And, our mother hen, Carla, and all the great people behind the scenes just turning this it's a year-round endeavor, really. Everybody will come down and see the 4 days that we're in Addison, Texas, but it really takes an entire year to host such an event. Now, guys, before we move on to the drafted players, we'll have to keep this clean, but any memorable moment that stands out to you guys, we had a lot of memorable moments. We'll go over to you, Joe. We'll start it with you.
Well, first off, we got to say, Coach T. Every practice, our trainer, what a guy. He was one of the most coolest people to meet on the coaching staff. Nick James running off the field screaming, "Big dog's got to eat." I'll remember that to the day I die. And then I had a great opportunity. I drove David Rivers of Youngstown State, the cornerback, home from the championship game. The FCS State unfortunately lost to James Madison, but it was a cool 35 minutes, just kind of get to know you. Couldn't ask to meet a nicer kid, and still wish him the best. But those are some of the things that was just kind of just a neat time to have down in Texas, man.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool stuff. How about you, Justin?
Well, one of them was when Joe decided to pop on a Colts hoodie, and people thought he was a Colts scout, and I'm not sure he denied it. I think he just ran. But I think one of the memorable moments for me was one of our drafted guys, Jalen Ware, the Alabama State tackle. I remember watching him in the one-on-ones at one point, and I think it was Cory Buries went against him. And Cory Buries kind of gave him a little stutter inside, and I thought, no way, this kid's not going to bite. Like Jalen Ware is going to have to, step inside. He's going to get beat on the outside. He's going to get beat in the in and out. But that was when I realized this kid's got something. I mean, he patiently went inside and then kept his feet moving and punched outside on the counter move. And it was one of those moments where you just realize, this player knows what he's doing. I mean, he's beyond his years. For coming from a small school and being pretty raw.
I think we just, Justin. Yeah.
Got me?
Yeah, no, we got you. We got you.
Okay. Yeah, it was just those moments where you're just sitting there, you're looking at it, your pen and paper, just dang, this kid knows what he's doing. He might have a bright future with all these physical gifts. So it was a scouting moment. It was one of those things where you have to understand not to be an emotional scout and overreact, but it was just a memorable, quick little tidbit that I still have not forgotten when I watched that kid play.
Yeah, you talk about that arm punch, man. He was jabbing out there like George Foreman, and we'll talk about our drafted players in just a second. Joe, I want to get to that Rogue Buchanan story if we could do a short version. But, for me, it was just really being a sponge, especially on the late night. I mean, so much work goes into this, and we're up. Some of us are up in the lobby at like 6 a.m. because, we're just so excited and can't wait to get started. And, we probably go to bed. We close down the bar, maybe 2, 3 o'clock. So, I can't share all those stories, but just being on that bar stool and surrounded by such an experienced coaching staff is really a privilege, in my opinion, to be around those guys because I learned so much. You can't teach experience, and these guys have lived it, walked it, talked it, breathed it, all over, every level you could possibly imagine. And I really, even when you're not working, you're working. And I learned so much from my great coaches, whether it was our defensive coordinator, Marvin Jones, our offensive coordinator, Wayne Anderson, our D-line coach, Don Wennick, our wide receivers coach, Tom Kudney. The list goes on and on. They all did an outstanding job, and just really honored to be around those guys. Real quick, Joe, we're going to talk about drafted guys, undrafted guys, names you need to know. We'll take a quick look ahead at next year, but hit us with that Ray Buchanan Jr. story, because that was pretty funny, man.
Well, I mean, and, great kid. He just comes up to introduce himself. I'm wearing this Colts parka, and he says, "Excuse me, sir, my name's Ray Buchanan Jr." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, we know who you are. You're doing great out there, right?" And he's like, "Well, you drafted my father." And I'm like, "Yeah, big play, Ray." And it's like, yeah. And it was just, I mean, I was, I should have just been forthright with it. Like, listen, I'm just some guy with a Colts parka. But also at the same time, I didn't want to, bust his bubble. He's out there working hard for scouts, let him go out there, be his best version of himself, I say. So really great. I think the overlying message, though, of the story should be that he took it upon himself to introduce himself. So I think that, really shows a lot of quality of the kid.
Yeah, and the funny part was the next day when me and Joe came to do the post-game recap show, we saw Joe rocking the NFL Draft Bible polo and just gave him that death stare like, man, you ain't no coach.
You ain't nobody.
But, like you said, Joe, the lesson to be learned there, I had one player come up to me and say, hey, none of the NFL teams spoke to me. I looked at him like, well, maybe you should introduce yourself. I mean, like one of you guys just said it. You really saw which players got it and which players didn't. Those guys that stayed on the field and lingered and just didn't want to leave, guess what? The scouts came on the field, started talking to players that were lingering, got to gather some background information, and maybe it led to an interview later on that night when, if you just don't say nothing, sometimes, players think the teams are going to always come to them. Well, guess what? If they're not, maybe you need to go introduce yourself, talk to somebody, because every person you come across or meet at the College Gridiron Showcase is nothing but opportunity. And, the breakdown was incredible from, again, D1, Power 5. I mean, our O-line and D-line were just so SEC Power 5 conference heavy, and then we had skill positions from non-Power 5 conference, small school, FCS, D2, all levels. It's just a great environment, and 30 of 32 NFL teams. We're hoping to have all 32 there next year, Pittsburgh and Arizona, if you're listening. 111 NFL scouts, 130 plus if you want to count the CFL teams, and over 100 players getting NFL opportunities to make that 53-man roster. And, only 3 guys. And, to put it in perspective, the Senior Bowl, the East-West Shrine Game, the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, they're all taking 100 to 110 guys. So there's 330 players there. You add our event into the mix, and only 250 players are getting drafted. So it is a great look for these guys. We had 3 players drafted. We'll take them one by one. One of the first guys we spoke to, Joe, was a linebacker, converted fullback that, it was, again, a guy making a transition to a new position. I always liked the linebacker to fullback transition, but being a fullback is so hard to make a living in the NFL because I don't even think half the league is even implementing a fullback anymore. But this kid, Alex Arma, out of West Georgia, Joe, I think he may have been the very first interview we did of the day, but it's funny because if you were to tell me, take a guess on who our first player drafted would be, I never thought it would be the fullback from West Georgia.
Yeah, that's the guy. I don't want to say the last person I would put up there, but Jalen Ware, of course, and then I'd say at least 4 or 5 other names before Armah. But, it kind of fits. I mean, what the Panthers do on offense and what they did with a player like Mike Tolbert. And, boy, some of the funnest tape to watch is Alex Armah. He's just everywhere. Give a kid a helmet. He's on offense. He's on defense. He's on the we-fence. And I think that's another part of why the Panthers like him. He's going to be a good gunner. They're looking for big, explosive dudes, and I think explosiveness was the theme of Carolina's whole draft with McCaffrey and Curtis Samuel, and let's just get guys that can blow up, and maybe that'll give us an edge somehow. But, how the transition's going to work, I think there's room for him. Like, he did a little H-back. He can line up in line. He's a real powerful blocker. That's some of the, like I said, funnest part of his highlights from junior and senior year. He really does blow people up in the run game. So he's not just willing. He's an effective blocker that can wall people off. So, he's definitely going to have to add some more bulk, but I don't think that's going to be a bad thing. He's just hopefully it works out for him. But, yeah, it's going back, rediscovering this kid, I think, was one of the funnest parts of prepping for this show. I'm just like, dude, I missed a little bit on Alex Armah, man. He's got some real nice footage out there.
Yeah, I think it's the 3rd year in a row now that CGS has either had a fullback drafted or a starting fullback has emerged from the event. So it's kind of becoming a fullback developmental program there down in Texas with the College Gridiron Showcase. Every year, a fullback starting in the NFL. So, Justin, a lot of people were talking about the additions, the draft picks of Christian McCaffrey and the Ohio State playmaker in the backfield. They actually used 3 picks on the backfield. Now you get a guy like Alex Armah, line him up back there with turf toe Johnny Stewart. I mean, you got nearly 500 pounds of beef coming at you. How do you see this pick shaking out? 6th-round pick, in fact, for the Carolina Panthers.
Well, I mean, you don't draft a fullback unless you plan to use him, right? So, I mean, he's going to be paving the way for Christian McCaffrey come soon. He's a big kid. I mean, every day at practice, he was thumping people. He just wanted to be out there. You could tell that he wanted to be there. It wasn't like, he got on the bus and just kind of walked off and was like, well, this is what I have to do today. I mean, the kid definitely was passionate about the game. His hair was on fire, man. So, like I said, I don't think you don't waste a 6th-round pick on a fullback unless you plan to use him. So it's not a wasted pick. I mean, this kid's going to play, and we're going to see a CGS kid make a name for himself, and I think soon too. I don't think it's a fullback is one of those things where it's like, give it a few years to sit. It's not a quarterback. He's going to play this year, and we're going to hear his name on Sunday. It's going to be fun to see.
Yep, number 192 overall, and then we waited about 40 picks to hear the next College Gridiron Showcase selection, and Justin, you touched on it earlier in the show, a guy that I think we probably unanimously feel like might have been the most dominant player there on the offensive side of the ball, at least, and that's Jalen Ware from South Alabama. Anything else you want to add that you haven't already mentioned about that young man?
I mean, the kid was just a natural. I'm going to be honest. I didn't know his name that well before we got to Bedford, and then watching him in the line drills and then the one-on-ones, it was just apparent that he was a level above pretty much everyone else there. He was just so natural in the way that he understood how to leverage the edge in his position. He knew how to use his length. He knew how to stop counter moves. He understood spacing and just how to get himself into his kick slide and, wall off. It was just fun to watch because I wouldn't say there wasn't a ton of quality offensive tackles there. There was, but this kid was definitely, a tier above everyone else. He got it, and seeing him get drafted is awesome because, watching him out in Bedford, the talent was just apparent, and you're hoping, like, someone's going to see this kid. Someone's got to give him a chance because he's got the talent. He just needs some coaching. He needs some functional strength to be added, but he knew what he was doing, and he definitely has the skills to play at the next level. So hopefully he sticks in Oakland. Hopefully they can get the best out of him.
Well, I'll even take it a step further and tell you that this guy reminds me of very much like Teron Armstead coming out, where, yeah, there's some raw edges to his game, but this guy's a future starter. I was surprised, Joe, because, he came to us later on in the process, and, when I found out he was from Mobile, Alabama, playing at South Alabama, and then I went and watched his film, I'm saying to myself, God, this guy deserves to be playing in the Senior Bowl. And the fact that we were able to get him, I mean, I was ecstatic, and then he lived up to the hype. I mean, there was kind of like an internal buzz within our internal scouting department, and I know we were all excited about what this kid could show. We're kind of scratching our heads because he did deserve a Senior Bowl invite. He was that good, in my opinion, and I think Oakland, they had a fantastic draft once again. They have a bunch of College Gridiron Showcase alumni in their training camp. But thoughts and impressions on Jalen Ware, who not only was an impressive player on the field, Joe, but an impressive individual to meet and talk with as well.
And that's what stuck out when I think you interviewed him, and just standing next to this, I mean, gargantuous man. Like, this guy has length for days, that's for sure. But I'm so happy for him because he's one of our kids that embraced the whole process. He did multiple All-Star events. He really tested out extremely well. I think he had a sub-5 second 40 time for a guy that size. That's pretty freakish. So, I mean, he also just, checked off all the boxes. So I think, coming into this draft, it was just internal conversations. Mike Riddleman, you and me, just like, it's Jalen Ware. It's got to be him. So, really, I think the Raiders got a steal. And I think that's another great point. It's like, why he didn't make the Senior Bowl being in their backyard. Well, hey, let's just say that's a steal for College Gridiron Showcase. The scoreboard reads 1 for CGS now.
It's what we do, baby. NFL Draft Bible, Joe, Everett, Justen Gammel, Ric Serritella. You heard from the co-founder, Craig Red, earlier in the show. And 5 picks later, number 236 overall, the Tennessee Titans, Joe, went to small school FCS on us, a guy in my backyard here at Villanova from the Bronx, Brad Seaton, a guy that really had a buzz leading up to him. If you really track NFL team visits, I mean, this guy really put on the mileage. He was on the move. I think about a dozen teams brought him in for a visit, which had me feeling real good about his chances getting drafted. He just eked in there at number 236 to the Tennessee Titans. But what can you tell us about Brad Seaton, Joe?
The dude is a giant. He's not just tall, he is thick. And that's what the Titans, that's kind of their MO. They really love big athletic kids, and they've always embraced kind of that smaller school. And got to tip the cap to you, Rick. Getting this guy on the list was a great call because, he's all about the power running game, fits the Titans offense. Once again, happy for him because this is, I believe it's Russ Grimm coaching him up for the Titans. Like, you could not ask for better. So they've got a great track record of developing their linemen. So good home for Brad Seaton. I think it's a good scheme fit. And boy, I got to admit though, this is one, like, I didn't know that he'd get drafted. Pretty sure he'd get a UDFA contract, but no, he snuck right in there. And once again, this is just if I was a lineman, I'd freaking love to go to Tennessee.
Well, and coming out of the FCS level, I mean, he's going to be viewed as more of a developmental guy, obviously a 7th-round pick, Justin. But, I mean, what more can you ask for coming out of Villanova? You play against arguably 2 Pro Bowl caliber talent. I mean, Taylor Lewan, Jack Conklin, the pressure's not on you to come in and produce right away. I mean, this is a great pick with that, ground and pound, as Joe mentioned. I mean, they're just – DeMarco Murray, Derrick Henry, they got a couple fullbacks on that roster. I mean, these guys mean business.
Yeah, man. I mean, they're coming straight at the defense. You got to buckle up your chin strap for these guys at Tennessee. I think the one thing that stood out about Seaton was you look at him and you think, like, this guy's a giant. And, like, he's going to get pushed around, though, because he's pretty tall. And, like, I don't know how he's going to hold up. But the one major thing that continued to surprise me, I think, each day of practice was his functional strength. I mean, his anchor and his ability to just kind of he had that grown man strength where you know, someone would get under his pads and you're thinking like, all right, this guy's going down like a tree. And no, he just stayed in there. He just stayed in there and battled it out and just kept fighting. And, you know, even when he lost his leverage, it was like he still has the strength to maintain and hold his ground. So it was just one of those things that, you know, another shocking scouting lesson. It's like, don't judge a book by its cover, because I thought this dude was going to get thrown around a little bit. He held his own all week long. And it's awesome to see him get drafted, because like Joe said, I wasn't sure he was going to get drafted. I think it was kind of hard in general just to predict who the guys were going to be that were going to get drafted, not drafted. It's such a crazy process, but it was fun to watch Seton for sure, because he was one of those definitely lessons that you learn where you have to understand. You just got to watch him play. You can't judge him by what you see. You got to watch him play.
Well, and not only that, he answered the questions that NFL scouts have so many times when you're FCS small, labeled as a small school prospect. They say, well, he did it against inferior competition. Well, he comes to the College Gridiron Showcase. He's going up against guys in the SEC now almost every snap and holding his own. And, you take a look at it now, the three guys we did get drafted, West Georgia, South Alabama, and Villanova. So, hey, at the end of the day, if you are good enough, the NFL will certainly find you. And again, College Gridiron Showcase is providing that platform. Now, you're tuned in to our first show of the 2018 College Gridiron Showcase Watch List show. We'll be back at it again each and every week. We're going to blast it all over the website, Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, SoundCloud, and all that good stuff. I want to take a quick time out to remind everybody that, the NFL draft never stopped. Even though the draft ended, we began on the prospectus, and we have the top 100 prospects in the country now available for download. It's $9.99. It'll be the best $10 you ever spend if you're a draftnik. We have the top 25 players ranked at each position, regardless of draft class. Nobody else is doing that right now. And then what's really cool is the 2020 vision. This was a great project, a fun project. I'm going to have Justin talk about that in a second, but some of the other things, you'll get FCS small school big board grades. We have the top FCS players. Justin did a new 2018 mock draft. And Justin, just give us a little taste on the 2020 vision, because that was such a fun project to do. What can people expect when they download this 2020 vision project?
I mean, I definitely think you can expect to see a lot of new names. I know, I mean, just looking at the list of the votes that you, me, and Joe had, you could tell we were all kind of being optimistic and having fun with kind of introducing new names and new players to each other. So there's a lot of NFL players currently that I know we left off the list, and, some people might scoff at that and say, well, these guys are dominating right now, or, these guys have been great for years, but I think it was fun for us to introduce the new college players that are up and coming, the guys that will be coming out in the next year or so, that will, we expect maybe to take the league by storm. So it was really fun just to incorporate not only NFL players, rookies that haven't played yet, but, players from the next 3 draft classes.
It's fun to see how the voting tallies came out, and I think it's also interesting to see, I think, Joe and myself probably, being a little bit older than Justin, we kind of went with more experienced older guys, and I think Justin, had a lot of some young players that, that's why, it's great perspective, the three of us. If you want a good blend of evaluation, I mean, between Justin, Joe, and myself, it's just really interesting to see how the votes tallied out. And you can see we pretty much predict who the top players are at each position on the 2020 vision. Joe, real quick, a quick thought about the 2018 NFL Draft Bible prospectus that people can get now, available on NFLDraftBible.com. And then we're going to get down. We got about 10 minutes or so to talk about some of the undrafted free agent signings.
Well, it's just a great online guide to have. I don't care if you're sitting there watching for draft purposes. I don't care if you're an agent. I don't care if you're gambling on the game. This thing will help you. We've got extensive scouting profiles, top 100 players in all of college football, regardless of class now. And maybe I'm a little crazy on some of my opinions of these players that are young, but I mean, I think that young freshman at Alabama who hadn't played a down of college football is going to be a special player. And, yes, we've got him in the top 100. So you're going to have to read about him, but also it's just I think it's sort of similar theme to what Justin brought up. We're introducing some names, but also giving you a nice guide to where this player is better by comparison than that player, even though he may be a sophomore compared to a senior. So that's I don't think any online guide's giving you that kind of perspective.
Yeah, a guy like Rashon Gary out of Michigan, who will probably be a household name in 3 years. We already have a scouting report on him, and he hasn't yet really even played much. So I know a lot of people love it. A lot of people who play dynasty leagues and fantasy football have purchased the guide to get an edge on that. But, that's a little taste of what you can expect to get from the 2018 prospectus. Available now, NFLDraftBible.com. Like I said, if you're a draft Nick man, $10 be the best $10 to spend. So we talked about our College Gridiron Showcase draft picks from last year's event. Justin, I'll go over to you. Signings, undrafted free agent signings. We mentioned over 100 of them, or 100 guys now that were in camp. Who are some players that didn't necessarily get drafted, but you see them making a little bit of a name for themselves? Did we lose Justin? Oh,
yeah,
okay, Justin. I think he had to call back in. Justin, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you. You guys hear me?
Yep. You go.
Right on. Baylor cornerback, Ryan Reed. He was a firecracker at the entire CBS event. On tape, he's feisty. He's one of those small guys that knows he's small and he's got to make up for it, but there's nothing wrong with that. I think he's at the Minnesota Vikings camp right now. Prototype nickel cornerback. I remember I talked to a Lions scout while we were at the CBS, and he said, they sent me down here specifically to watch Ryan Reed and a few of the other DBs, and we view him as one of the prototypical nickel corners. I think he made a name for himself at the event. I think he had to sit out the last day, but in all the practices he was able to participate in, he was giving the wide receivers hell, man. It was all over the place. He was in their face, jawing, jabbing, whatever he had to do. He's one of those guys I think has a shot making a 53-man roster. He's a lot like Quandre Diggs, the guy from Texas a few years ago, who ended up making the Lions roster as a nickel. So he's one of my guys for sure.
All right, Joe. Any signings there that stand out to you where you said, "Wow, great fit, great spot, landing spot. I think this guy's really gonna make this roster and make a little niche for himself"?
Well, I like where Shakir Soto landed. Well, I just like Shakir Soto. So, I mean, I'll just get that out of the way. But in that new scheme, I think the Broncos move him to more the even front, and where they can use Soto is a nice rotational guy, play a little inside. He could play in on pass rushing downs, but that's, I think, a group where he could fit in, and it might be a nice scheme fitting. And my other guy, one of my favorite players, Younghoe Koo, I call him Young. He's on the Chargers. So, and Josh Lambo's nothing to write home about. I think he was 0 for 3 on 50-yard attempts, missed about 4 extra points. So, come on, Younghoe, this is your chance. Maybe he could get in there, steal himself a job in newly Los Angeles.
Yeah, shout out to Younghoe, who didn't punch me in the face after mispronouncing his name all week. We also had another great kicker out of UConn, Bobby Boyle, who's over in Baltimore, and I expect him to make that. I don't even know who the other kicker is in Baltimore off the top of my head, but I have no doubt in my mind that Bobby Boyle will win that job. Shout out to Coach Mike McCabe and one-on-one kicking for the work he did with our special teams guys, including Anthony Kukla, our offensive MVP, who, basically I felt like bringing him to the College Gridiron Showcase, I thought it might get him drafted, but he did get an opportunity. He's with the Oakland Raiders, can play H-back, fullback, but they actually have him in camp as a long snapper, and, he's going to make that team. I honestly do believe that. How about Matt Rita? Who, you say? Matt Rita. You want to know who had the most impressive measurables of any running back during the NFL draft season? It was Matt Rita, no doubt about it. And, he didn't get an invite to the NFL scouting combine, but his pro day, was through the roof. The Georgia Southern running back, reports were he was the most impressive rookie during the rookie camp. I think he's going to make a little home for himself as a change of pace guy. And check this, guys. 17 contract offers, 17 undrafted free agent contract offers. He chose the San Francisco 49ers, and I believe he'll have a home there with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Also, Drew Morgan, I thought this was the guy that everybody thought, was going to get drafted. Great week of practice at College Gridiron Showcase, earned himself an invite to the East-West Shrine game, got the call over to Indianapolis at the NFL Scouting Combine, and, while he didn't get drafted, Drew Morgan is a guy, the Dolphins have had quite a bunch of success with College Gridiron Showcase players, Jakeem Grant and some others. But Drew Morgan is a guy you definitely need to know. And one last one, Rashon Coward from Old Dominion. This guy was just really winning a lot of the one-on-ones, and I think he has a home on that Chicago Bears defensive line. So Rashon Coward, if you didn't know, you should know. And, Joe, I don't know if you have any other players. I know I had, give us a name you need to know. It kind of felt under the same category as signings that you like. Did you have a name that, the listening audience needs to know?
Well, just touching on Nick James did end up on Detroit. He wasn't like the priority top list, but he's got a contract. If that kid can stay on the path, he is we know him to be a monster, and it's just the game is in him. I just hope he could just solidify himself there as a rotational lineman, because we know he can play. It's just a matter of, focusing, adapting to the system, and, keeping his nose clean. He's a good kid. He's just he's got to stay on the path. And then Armand, I think he is going to start, but I think what Justin said is totally on point. They didn't draft a fullback not to start him and not to use him. Darrell Young last year of his contract. I think we're going to see a lot of Alex Armand. If any of our players that's got a chance to really start, it's got to be Armand, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you mentioned Nick James. We talked about Jalen Ware being the most dominant player on the offensive side. Well, Nick James, I think, takes home that distinction on the defensive side, and he left a little bit early, so he didn't get to stick around for the award portion. And our defensive player of the week was Chris Odom from Arkansas State, another guy you should probably know, playing with the Atlanta Falcons. Our guy Dan Quinn from Morristown, New Jersey, snagging Chris Odom, whose father played about a decade in the league as well. And before we wrap it up, we're going to go over to Justin for a name you need to know. Justin, one last guy you have for us?
Sorry, guys, I just got back in. Where are we at?
Just one last guy. Any name you need to know, or did you cover all the undrafted free agent signings? We're just giving our final guys that you may need to know. Joe said Nick James on Detroit. I said Chris Odom on the Falcons. You got somebody?
Yeah, let me toss up my boy Cory Buries, the outside linebacker, defensive end from Tennessee. I think he's at the Patriots camp right now. Total Belichick type of guy, man, just a blue-collar freaking worker bee. Small, he's undersized, but he's fire, man. I think I was talking to his agent, and they said he knew he wasn't going to test that well at any of the pro days and all that stuff, but he said, I'm a football player. That's what I do first and foremost. So I think he's one of those guys that's kind of a hybrid. He could stick in the Patriots camp if anyone could.
Yeah, I got to say his spin move got quite a few offensive linemen throughout the week. I thought that was really impressive with his pass rush repertoire. So, we were going to try and touch base and take a look ahead on some of the potential names that you're going to see unveiled on the 2018 College Gridiron Showcase watch list next week. But we'll save that for next week's episode. It's been an hour of power. So we're going to wrap it up here. And before we do, Joe, what do you got coming up? What's your summer looking like? What can the people at home expect to see here next? I guess, we've been working diligently on the College Gridiron Showcase watch list. We've got the prospectus now available, and who knows, maybe an expanded edition in our future. What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Oh, without a doubt, working on expanding the prospectus and just, finally wrapped up all the spring games. I know a lot of people may not watch those, but I still think you can get a real nice flavor of local commentary and just some little tidbits you may not know. And I think right now, outside of that, just doing conference previews, breaking down who's about to win, who's got the best chance of winning conference, and then, NFL draft players to watch. So those you could expect to see pretty soon.
Yeah, Justin, training camp will be upon us before we know it, but what's your summer game plan looking like here? What can people expect to see? I know they can expect to see a lot of scouting analysis from you on your Twitter feed. If people want to follow at Joe W. Everett, at Gam Scout, at NFL Draft Bible, at CGS All-Star. But what can people expect to see from you over the summer here, Jay?
Definitely getting over to the Bronco training camp, check out my donkeys. I've been talking to a lot of wide receivers lately with some other scouts and some other draft nicks. So I got a lot of different, points of view / takes on the wide receiver class upcoming. It's a special linebacker class too, so been talking a lot of that. I'm gonna probably come out with something soon, just going over the feel and what some of these guys are looking like as far as maybe NFL player comps / level of overall. I don't know, man. I've been getting so many different hot takes lately. It's hard to keep them all up there, but you got to slice and dice through them, see which ones are worthy, which ones are credible, and come out with some scouting analysis soon on the 2018 class, as well as just more NFL film work. So that is my game plan for the 2018, man.
Yeah, you're the hot take king, and we've been heating up the summer already with our on-location coverage. If you guys didn't know, check out our All Access Football YouTube channel. Check out the NFLDraftBible.com website channel. But, we just did Odell Beckham's youth football camp. We were at Brandon Marshall's wide receiver factory with Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram, Quincy Enunwa. Landon Collins had the celebrity softball game. We had a chance to talk to all kinds of guys there. O.J. Anderson and Brandon Jacobs and Wayne Gallman, 3 generations of running backs right there. Honestly, the Jaworski interviews, I got to talk to, I really appreciated these interviews so much so. I rarely go back and listen to my interviews because I've lived it. I experienced it. I know what we talked about. But I enjoyed so much talking to not only Jaworski, but Ronnie Brown, Jeff Bostic, Kajana Carter, John Runyon. The football stories that we shared there, if you're, I'm 37 years old, so, I had a chance to watch these guys play and to reminisce and go down memory lane. It was really great. And the Jeff Bostic story with Joe Gibbs and the running back, one of the best Super Bowl stories I've ever heard. But yeah, just getting perspective, Kajana Carter, the number 1 overall pick as a running back, which is unheard of these days. And then, Ronnie Brown reliving the wild, he started that Wildcat phenomenon, and he still keeps in touch with Cadillac Williams. We talked about that. There was so much good stuff, but we'll actually be next week. Stay tuned. We'll be on location at the Big Daddy Youth Football Camp. Check out BigDaddyFootball.com. We'll be out there with Coach Spagnuolo Coach Spags from the Giants. Mohamed Sanu will be there. Kerry Wynn and Jay Bromley from the Giants. Our guy Eric Coleman, who was out at the College Gridiron Showcase, I'm looking forward. I missed him at the Beckham camp. I'm looking forward to seeing him out at the Big Daddy camp. Brian Baldinger will be out there, so we'll have all kinds of interviews next week. I think we'll be out there on Tuesday. And then, we're getting ready to kick off our NFL training camp tour. My goal is about a dozen NFL training camps. I'll be happy if I hit double digits this year. I'm trying to bang up every training camp up and down the East Coast I possibly can. And then, like I said, I'll be at 24 games during the college football season. I have the whole schedule mapped out. I can't wait for football. I mean, I just can't wait. And if you can't wait, well, this is a good way to get your fix every week at the College Gridiron Showcase Watch List show. Before we wrap it up, just want to give out a shout-out to some of the people that support not only the College Gridiron Showcase, but also help support the NFL Draft Bible, of course, Parabolic Performance and Rehab. Check out goparabolic.com. They have their summer series, their QB Academy with former Rutgers quarterback Gary Nova, Delaware QB coach Mike Bamonte, every Monday and Wednesday. And then, if you're not a quarterback, they also have the speed camp going on in Manalapan, New Jersey. It's the largest facility east of the Mississippi. I mean, this is it. Sportica Sports in Manalapan. It just opened every Monday and Wednesday for the summer. It's $80 for a drop-in session. It's $600 for all 10 dates. So go parabolic.com for that. DefianceFuel.com. Defiance Fuel Water. It's great to see everybody getting along, and now Defiance Fuel Water is available at all the Parabolic Performance locations, but you can also get it at DefianceFuel.com. And if you're a fan of our show, you've watched the live streams, you watched our on-location coverage. As a matter of fact, I've been drinking Defiance Fuel throughout the show, so we definitely appreciate them. And then Premier Athlete Advisors. One of our newer sponsors, PremierAthleteAdvisors.com. I had a chance to meet Adam and Matt actually at the College Gridiron Showcase. I ran into them at the Combine. I saw these guys on the Pro Day circuit. I mean, when you talk about just one of the hardest working agencies I've seen. So it's been really nice to kind of work with them. They're based in Charlotte, North Carolina, so Premier Athlete Advisors. If you're a 2018 prospect and want to, check them out and betting potential agents, PremierAthleteAdvisors.com for that. And then Ticketscore.com. Shout out to Ticketscore.com. Hey, if you want to get in on the Super Bowl without actually paying Super Bowl prices, they have ticket prices for sporting events up to 98% off market value, and every year they have a contest where they give away Super Bowl tickets, and Ticketscore.com for more information on that. Big shout out to our first show of the year to get things started, man. Of course, I was your host, Ric Serritella. We had the co-founder, Craig Red. Whether it's Craig Red or Jose Jefferson, we try to have them pop on each and every week with a little update of the latest comings and goings, the happenings of what's going on with the College Gridiron Showcase. Of course, our director of college football scouting, Joe Everett, never leaving a stone unturned. Our associate director, Justen Gammel, who has no ifs, ands, and buts. He will state his opinion. He doesn't care what you think, and that's what you really want when it comes to evaluation. Strong, independent-minded evaluators who aren't going to let outside noise influence their decisions. And then, we'll be back next week. So, if you like the show, click subscribe, share it. Like I said, we're going to get it up on the YouTube and the SoundCloud, and we're now on iTunes. So, click subscribe, tell somebody about it, share it. We definitely appreciate it. And on that note, we're going to let you go out on this one.
Back at it again. It's another edition of the College Gridiron Showcase Watch List Show, tracking the top NFL draft prospects on the planet each and every week, brought to you by the NFL Draft Bible, broadcasting around the globe with your hosts, Joe Everett, Justen Gammel, and me, the RIC, Ric Serritella. We are on air.